Hello and welcome to the channel. Thanks for stopping by. Great to have you here. Today we're going to take a look at this watch, the Casio W800H. And this watch I think is great for the price that you pay, and I think it's better than this watch, the iconic Casio F-91W. Everybody knows this watch. You would have seen reviews on this watch. It's everywhere. Every watch reviewer has done it. I haven't. And one of the reasons I haven't is this watch that I got from Amazon. I think at the time it was about £10. What's that? $11, $12. Got eaten by the dog, so the tang doesn't work anymore. So I bought this one, and I think this one is better than this one, and I'll tell you why. Now, the W800H, as you can see, it's a slightly different design to the F-91W, and it costs slightly more, so you can pick this up now. Well, nowadays it's actually gone up in price quite a bit, so it's about £15. What's that, $18? This one is about £25 or less, or what's that, less than $30, but I think it's a better watch. I'll put links into the description. Now obviously we're talking digital watches here rather than mechanical or quartz, but this one in particular is an icon. So let's take a look at what we get. Now this watch is bigger than the F-91W, but not by much. So diameter on this watch is 37mm, which is exactly the same as the F-91W, oddly enough. Now lug to lug on this is 43.8, and that's where it does differ from the F-91W, because that's just 37, so it's a very square sort of watch. This is square to look at, but actually lug to lug is 43.8. Thickness 14mm. Now that is a bit chunkier compared to the F-91W. I think that comes in about 8mm. Strap width, this is an 18mm strap at the lugs. It actually comes off at 23 on the shoulders, just down to here. Where I believe on this one, I think it's something like a 16mm strap. So it is wider, a little bit chunkier. Well, if you look, the body silhouette is very similar. Now weight, the listing that I looked at had this watch as 110 grams. I thought that's never right. So I did weigh it. This is only 35 grams. So it's super light. Like the F-91W, super light. One of the things that a lot of people attract to it is because it basically doesn't feel like you're wearing a watch. And it is the same with this, even though it's a slightly chunkier watch. Now build wise, both watches are very similar. Let me just put this one out of the way and focus on this one. It's all resin. Plastic or acrylic, clear acrylic for the crystal, a little bit of printing on Casio, 10-year battery, water resist, 100, light, 1224 mode and adjust. Body itself, now this is thicker, as I say, I think it's 14mm, where I think the F-91W off the top of my head is something like 16. You can see it is a little bit chunkier, it's a little bit more robust, a bit more sort of utilitarian. Ideal if you're into construction or do a lot of outdoor activity, this would take a beating, no problem at all. It's well built, as it's the F-91W, nobody's knocking it for the price that you pay. But the build on this is superb. But yeah, I suppose you pay for what you get. You know you're going to get a plastic watch. This will scratch up if you really knock it about, but for the price it's superb. Again, I prefer the style of this just because it's got that slightly raised bit as against the flat one, but it's not a cuff catcher at all. One of the things I do think is much better on this W800 over the F91 is that display. Yes, it's larger. Now, you could actually make this display on this larger if you cut off some of this sort of board around the top, which is kind of feel what they've done with this particular one. It's a really nice, clean, clear LCD. Obviously, technology moved on. Also think I prefer the 4 buttons on this one rather than the 3 lopsided on that one. I just think it gives it a bit more symmetry. Now obviously functionality wise on here we've got day date, full date as well. So as you can see it's 22nd of the 10th 2023 on a Sunday. Whereas on here we've just got SU22. Functionality wise, we've got standard time 12:24 hour, which is the same on the F91. Alarm, and I think there's an hourly alarm as well. Stopwatch, again same as the F-91W, But this one also has dual time, which again I think just sets it apart. If you've got friends or relatives in a different time zone, that you can change that to be in that time zone. And I just think it gives you better functionality. We've also got 100 meters of water resistance, and I think it's 30 on the F-91W, and a 10-year battery life. Now I know the battery life on this is pretty good. I think it's probably 3 to 5 off the top of my head, but they don't state 10-year guarantee. I think it's just another reason this watch is better than this watch. Back to the display, and I will put some video up here of the two backlights. I think it's also far better than the somewhat well-known and infamous backlight on the F-91W. It is, oh, there we go. It's pretty awful. But that's what you get for the money that you pay for this. It's a great watch, but I just think the light on the W800H is so much better for the money that you pay. Caseback wise, a straightforward screw-on stainless steel caseback, water resistant, 10 ATM, Casio W800H even, stainless steel back. Very similar to the, if I flip it the right way, very similar to the back on the F-91W, but obviously a bigger footprint. Also, one of the reasons that I prefer this watch over the F-91W is the strap length. Now, it's just a resin strap, very similar to the F-91W. However, it is longer on the 800H, which means I can wear it. I've got an 8-inch wrist, which I'll show you on wrist in a little bit. I can't even get the F-91W on. They're just much shorter when you put them next to each other, and that makes a real difference when you're putting it on, especially when you've got a larger wrist like myself. So if you've got a larger wrist, you want to be looking at this watch and not this watch. So here it is on wrist. Now, as I say, I've got an 8-inch wrist and I can fit this one on quite happily. I really struggle with the F-91W. It won't actually go round my wrist. Oh, he says dropping it. So if you've got a larger wrist, you're really going to struggle with the F-91W. It's just not going to fit. It's definitely designed for people with slender wrists. This will fit for you. I think the display is better. It's got dual time should you need that. Better water resistance, 10-year battery. I suppose my only niggle with this is that light's still not brilliant. It's much better than the infamous one on the F-91W, but it is better and I prefer it for it. So if you're looking for a watch nowadays, a nice Casio that's not going to cost the earth, I'd recommend this one over this one, especially as the price on this one just seems to be creeping up at the moment. It's a great watch. Definitely get it in your collection. If that's not your style of watch, this might be your style of watch. And this is the awesome Citizen Titanium. I'll put a link to that at the end of the video. Thanks to everybody who's liked and subscribed and commented, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.